When I found out my childhood sweetheart, Chloe, couldn't have children, my husband Ethan became convinced it was my fault. He forced me to have an abortion, and then forced me to divorce him. I thought his revenge would end there. But at his wedding to Chloe, he actually played my intimate video. The woman in the video is my ex-wife, Aubrey Stone, and that's why I divorced her. Suddenly, I was the scandalous woman everyone shamed and condemned. After I was beaten and hospitalized, Ethan came to visit me. He offered a perfunctory apology. I didn't expect those internet trolls to actually hurt you. I just wanted to help Chloe get some payback. You framed her before, so now we're even. I looked at him numbly, a cold laugh escaping my lips. How could we ever be even after this? Ethan, the pain you've inflicted on me is something you can never atone for. Aubrey, did you hear what I said? My silence completely infuriated Ethan. He instinctively tightened his grip on my arm. I winced in pain and quickly pushed his hand away. Chloe told you I impersonated you, sent her messages to get an abortion, and that's why she can't have kids for life, and you just believed her. And why wouldn't I? You're the only one who knows my phone password, and you're still denying it. Ethan snapped, his face reddening with anger as he pointed at me. I'm telling you, this is a lesson. Don't cause trouble again, or I won't stop them from taking this fifth child either. With that, Ethan turned and walked away. I watched his retreating back, and gave a self-deprecating laugh. Fine then, don't keep it. I don't want to have any more of your children anyway, especially since only the father of my children could inherit the Sterling medical dynasty. No sooner had Ethan left than the hospital room door swung open. I thought it was the hospital staff, but it turned out to be internet trolls who supported Chloe. They attacked me again. This time, I was seriously injured. I called the police but nothing came of it. Because my husband, legally speaking as my next of kin, settled the case. When I woke up the next day and learned all this, I screamed hysterically at Ethan. Why? We're divorced, how dare you make decisions for me? We might be separated, but legally, I'm still your husband. Meeting Ethan's indifferent gaze, I felt a lump of frustration stuck in my throat. It took a while for my breathing to steady. Fine, even if that's true, why would you settle? They almost killed me, do you know that? You're exaggerating. They just couldn't stand seeing you bully Chloe. Besides, are you completely blameless? It was the same old line. I knew Ethan cared about Chloe, but I never imagined he'd be so utterly blinded by her. Tears welled up in my eyes at the thought. The injustice I felt was beyond words. Well, good. The decision I hadn't been able to make before was now set in stone. While Ethan wasn't looking, I sent a message. Proceed as planned, new successor. The reply came quickly. Not Ethan anymore. Ethan? Did he deserve it? No, choose someone else. Chloe had clung to Ethan relentlessly, for no other reason than him being the chosen successor of a medical legend. Both the hospital and the medical college were ultimately supposed to be inherited by Ethan. The Sterling medical dynasty had already announced this. Everyone said, the Sterling family really does pick its heirs based on ability, choosing outside their own children. Exactly. It seems merit truly prevails. Little did they know, I was the sole heir of the Sterling medical dynasty, and Ethan was simply my chosen successor. My parents had asked me back then, why him? To this day, I remember what I said. He may only be a midwife now, but I believe he has a bright future. Ethan hadn't disappointed me. In just 3 years, he became a leader in his field. He even became synonymous with the profession of a midwife. But without our family's support, how could his path have been so smooth? I even used to joke with Ethan. If I told you I was the heir to the Sterling medical dynasty, would you believe me? Ethan paused for a moment then laughed. Honey, even if your family background doesn't match mine, I wouldn't mind. And don't worry, my parents are completely fine with whoever I choose. Back then, Ethan only had eyes for me. He didn't just say it, he acted on it. Because I had always kept my identity a secret, my in-laws thought I wasn't good enough for Ethan. But every time, Ethan would sternly retort, I'm choosing a wife, not a business partner for you. For my sake, Ethan hadn't visited his parents' mansion in ages. Their family relationship had only recently begun to mend. I just never expected a man's love could be a deception from beginning to end. For miscarriages later, I was utterly disillusioned with this man. 3 days later, I was discharged and returned home, only to find the house completely transformed. Chloe, a triumphant smirk on her face, came downstairs. She feigned surprise. Oh, Aubrey, you're back? Even though you're still legally my husband's wife, we're already married. I actually don't want to see you in my house. I ignored Chloe and walked straight to the bedroom, intending to retrieve my belongings. But Chloe blocked my path. This is our master bedroom. Do you think you can just waltz in? I need to get my things. Your things. Chloe instantly sneered. What things do you have? All your belongings were bought by my husband. Meeting Chloe's mocking gaze, I didn't back down. Chloe, you just said I'm still legally Ethan's wife. If I were to truly burn all bridges and sue him for bigamy, What impact do you think that would have on both of you? You're threatening me? I didn't deny it, and Chloe was furious. Taking advantage of her hesitation, I walked straight into the bedroom. But the transformed room left me at a loss. Chloe recovered and mocked. I threw out all your things. If you really want them, go check the trash cans downstairs. What about the box in the closet? I opened the closet, but didn't see the cherished box. Chloe ignored my sharp glare, merely shrugging. Threw it away. Furious, I grabbed Chloe by the throat. You're asking for it. As Chloe struggled, Ethan returned. He shoved me away. Aubrey, are you crazy? Seeing Ethan, Chloe instantly burst into breathless sobs. Ethan, I don't know why Aubrey is doing this to me. But my eyes were fixed on Ethan. She threw away our children. Ethan's eyes darkened for a moment. Chloe quickly interjected. How was I supposed to know what was in that old box? Besides, your first 4 children weren't even viable embryos. And now you're using dead children to insult me. Aubrey, how can you be so vicious? Aren't you afraid your children's vengeful spirits will come back to haunt you? Chloe certainly knew how to twist things. My 4 children were all lost because of her. Yet she managed to completely absolve herself. I expected Ethan to reprimand Chloe, but instead he frowned. I've told you before not to keep those unlucky things in the house. I stared at Ethan in disbelief. So our children were just unlucky things to him. Of course, why couldn't I see it? If he truly cared about our children, how could he have let them miscarry? Enough, Aubrey. Do you want to lose yet another child? Ethan knew my obsession with having children. He always knew how desperately I wanted to bear his children, so he used that to manipulate me. But our 5th child was already gone when I was attacked by those internet trolls supporting Chloe. I sneered at Ethan. Neither you nor I deserve to have children. With that, I tried to leave, but Ethan blocked me. It's my father's birthday tomorrow. You have to be there. At his words, I couldn't help but scoff. Everyone knows you married Chloe. Why would I, your ex-wife, show up? Ethan immediately frowned. Look, this is your chance to atone. My parents know you're pregnant, and are willing to overlook everything. Just go, okay? I'm not going. My gaze was firm. After saying that, I ignored Ethan completely and turned to leave. But I didn't expect Ethan to retaliate by sabotaging people who were friendly with me. Soon after, Ethan sent me a message. If you don't come, I guarantee they'll suffer greatly. I didn't reply, so Ethan exposed me on ends. The compromising video from his and Chloe's wedding had only been known by a few people, but now everyone knew. Suddenly, I was a pariah. The same people who had assaulted me at the hospital now came out to speak for what they called justice. Boycott Aubrey Stone. My company even issued a statement announcing my termination. People I didn't even know, who claimed to be close to me, started coming forward. Yes, I was Aubrey Stone's classmate. She was like this even in school. I can't believe Aubrey Stone got together with Ethan Stone and still wasn't satisfied. She's had 3 abortions. It's because the children weren't Ethan's at all. Only Ethan could put up with it. Anyone else would have beaten Aubrey Stone to death. My social media accounts were attacked within half an hour. My DMs were flooded with insults telling me to die. I saved all of them and sent them to my lawyer. But I didn't expect this to be just the beginning. Knowing I was under attack from all sides, Ethan launched a series of further actions. His goal was singular: to force me into submission. After making a phone call to arrange things, I replied to Ethan's message. Okay, I'll be there on time tomorrow. Before going, I went to the hospital and placed my 5th child in an exquisite box. That night, I stayed at my small apartment, but Chloe was restless all night. She kept sending me intimate videos of her and Ethan, or recordings of Ethan slandering me. Aubrey can't compare to you. You're the one I care about most. Even though Aubrey is pregnant now, I still want to have a child with you. Chloe, no one will ever break us apart again. I forwarded all of these to my lawyer as well. My lawyer immediately sent a happy emoji. You're definitely going to win. Yes, Ethan had grandly married Chloe, yet he never even bothered to finalize the divorce with me. It showed just how little he valued me. In Ethan's eyes, I was just someone with no family support. Fortunately, this also allowed me to see his true colors. Early the next morning, I was yanked awake by Ethan. He glared at me. Are you ever going to stop? Chloe doesn't even mind you being my mistress. Yet you keep stirring up trouble. Do you really want me to throw you out to be satisfied? Meeting Ethan's furious, almost devouring gaze, I felt a bit bewildered. Seeing my confusion, Ethan grew even angrier. Still playing innocent? You found someone to maliciously spread rumors that Chloe broke up our relationship, saying you're still my wife, and that Chloe can't have children for life. Are you trying to see Chloe dead? Even though I hadn't done any of those things, all of them were true. As our eyes met, Ethan understood the meaning in mine. He grabbed me and dragged me off the bed. Since you're so vicious, you don't need this child either. Ethan dragged me to the hospital, but just before I went into the operating room, he received a FaceTime call from Chloe. All right, I'll be right there. Ethan left me in the operating room. He said, "Be at the mansion within half an hour, or you'll regret it." Watching Ethan's frantic departure, I couldn't help but smile. I was going anyway. Even if he hadn't said anything. I had an announcement to make. By the time I arrived at the mansion, many people had already gathered. These people, who used to be overly polite to me, now merely glanced at me coldly, clearly disapproving. Some even deliberately whispered loudly, "I really don't know how some people have the nerve to show up." Exactly. Today is Mr. Stone Sr.'s birthday, and the Sterling medical dynasty is also announcing Ethan as the successor. How can she, someone who constantly slandered Mrs. Stone, still have the face to come? Well, she is an ex-wife after all. Maybe she's hoping to cash in on the family's prestige. I didn't pay much attention to their remarks. Ethan's parents also saw me and immediately snorted. "What are you doing here? Our Stone family doesn't have a daughter-in-law like you." I was about to say something when Ethan arrived with a frail and delicate-looking Chloe. The Stone family members smiled and stepped forward. "Chloe, you're pregnant now, be careful." Hearing this, everyone present gasped. "She's already pregnant? Congratulations." But I couldn't help but mock. Didn't she say she was infertile for life? How did she get pregnant so quickly? Hearing me say that, Ethan glared sharply at me. "Shut up." Everyone thought I was heartless and cold, with some even saying, "I think she's just jealous." Ethan's family, enraged, ordered their bodyguards to pin me to the ground. "Beat her. How dare she target my daughter-in-law? I won't tolerate it." After Mr. Stone Sr. spoke, the Stone family bodyguards surrounded me. I looked at Ethan one last time. "I'm pregnant too." "So what? Your child only stays if I want it to." Ethan looked at me with disdain. I closed my eyes and counted down in my mind. I thought everything should end now. Just as the bodyguard started tearing at my clothes, Mr. Stone Sr. suddenly yelled, "Wait." I thought he had realized something, but instead he said, "The people from the Sterling medical dynasty are arriving soon. Take Aubrey to the back first, don't make a scene." No sooner had he spoken than the bodyguards dragged me towards the garden. At the same moment, the banquet hall doors were pushed open. The Stone family members fawned over the newcomers. "You're here." The person didn't even look at them, instead scanning the crowd. Ethan, receiving a signal from Mr. Stone Sr.'s eyes, hurried after the person. "Hello, I'm Ethan Stone." The person glanced at Ethan, their expression instantly darkening. "Where is Miss Sterling?" Everyone was baffled. "Miss Sterling? Your Miss Sterling is at the banquet." Mr. Stone Sr. looked at Mr. Davies in disbelief. Mr. Davies searched the room but couldn't find me. He immediately called my number. The next moment, my phone rang in my hand. Everyone present looked with horror in my direction. At this point, Mr. Davies also saw me, my clothes disheveled. His face went pale. "Miss Sterling." The golden chandeliers of the Stone family ballroom cast a warm, blinding light over the marble tiles, but the air inside had turned freezing cold. Mr. Davies stood near the arched entrance, his hand clutching his phone, his face rapidly draining of all color. He looked past the crowd of wealthy medical investors, past the security guards, and finally fixed his eyes on me. I lay on the polished marble floor, my hair disheveled, the sleeve of my simple cotton blouse torn where the bodyguards had forcefully pinned my shoulders. Beside me, the exquisite velvet box containing the remains of my lost fifth child had fallen onto the floor, its lid slightly open, exposing the tiny, cold reality of my grief. Miss Sterling." Mr. Davies's voice trembled, his knees visibly buckling. As he took a step forward, the name Sterling echoed through the silent ballroom like an iron rod slamming into glass. Ethan's father, Mr. Stone Sr., froze, his glass of red wine halfway to his lips. He blinked, looking at Mr. Davies, then at me, a sudden panicked confusion crossing his features. "Mr. Davies, what did you say? Miss Sterling? The heiress is at our banquet." Mr. Davies didn't answer him. He rushed forward, pushing the bodyguards away. With a violent, frantic strength, he fell onto his knees in the dirt of the garden entrance, his hands shaking as he reached out to help me stand. "Miss Aubrey, I'm sorry," Mr. Davies wept, his voice thick with a profound, terrifying panic. We didn't know they were treating you like this. Your father, the chairman, he's already at the city center. If he learns of this." "It's fine, Mr. Davies," I said, my voice quiet, flat, and completely dry as I brushed the dust from my torn sleeve. "The Stone family was just teaching me a lesson. They wanted me to learn my place." I looked at Ethan. He stood beside Chloe, his face a pale, frozen mask of absolute, silent horror. He looked at the legal folder in Mr. Davies's hand, the folder carrying the golden seal of the Sterling medical dynasty, then at my disheveled figure, his eyes wide and bloodshot. "Aubrey," Ethan whispered, his voice losing its steady, arrogant pitch, dropping into a thin, raspy scratch. You're a Sterling? The sole heir I was, Ethan, I said, looking at him with an expression of polite indifference. But to you, I was just a woman with no family support. A woman who was clinging and vicious, whose children were unlucky things to be thrown into the trash. I took the velvet box from the floor, holding it tightly against my chest, and turned my back to the altar. Mr. Davies, I said, the successor announcement. Let's cancel it. The boardroom of the Sterling Medical Group was silent, the air heavy with the scent of stale paper and cold coffee. Ethan sat alone at the long mahogany table, his pristine suit looking slightly too large for his thin shoulders, his hands shaking as he looked at the legal documents my family's lawyers had compiled over the past 48 hours. Beside me stood Mr. Harrison, our chief litigation lawyer, his face calm and entirely devoid of warmth. By formal decree of the chairman of the Sterling Medical Dynasty, Mr. Harrison announced, his voice carrying the dry, unshakable authority of a federal judge. Mr. Ethan Stone's appointment as successor is officially revoked. No, Ethan's father, Mr. Stone Sr., wept, his head pressing against the table. Mr. Harrison, please. It's a misunderstanding. Ethan didn't know she was Miss Sterling. He was blinded by Chloe. He wasn't blinded, Mr. Stone, I said, sitting across from them, my hands clasped loosely in my lap. He was greedy. He wanted the Sterling name, the Sterling Hospitals, and the Sterling College. But he wanted to keep his childhood sweetheart in my bed while I paid his bills. I reached into my bag and pulled out a stack of financial records. Over the past 3 years, I said, sliding the documents across the table, Ethan's research funding, his private clinic's operating capital, and even the gold-embossed invitations for his wedding to Chloe were entirely drawn from my family's private trust. He used my name to build his genius career while his parents called me an unworthy outsider. Aubrey, please, Ethan pleaded, his eyes filling with tears as he looked at me. For the sake of our 3 years, don't do this. My career, my medical license. If you revoke the appointment, the board will oust me. I'll have nothing. You already have nothing, Ethan, I said, my voice dropping into a quiet, chilling whisper. Because the company you thought you were going to inherit was officially purchased by the Sterling Group yesterday morning. The name, Stone Medical, is permanently erased from the New York market. I stood up, buttoning my coat. The police are waiting outside, Ethan, I said. And the court has already approved the bigamy warrant. Mr. Ethan Stone, Miss Chloe Smith. The lead detective from the Manhattan Major Crimes Division stepped into the boardroom, his hand resting on his leather holster as he presented the warrant. You are under arrest for bigamy, corporate fraud, and malicious slandering of a public figure. No, Chloe shrieked, her sweet, fragile persona completely vanishing as she clawed at Ethan's arm, her face turning an ugly blotched red. Ethan, tell them. You divorced her. You signed the papers. The divorce papers were never filed with the court, Miss Smith, Mr. Harrison said, his voice flat. Mr. Stone purposely delayed the filing to maintain his access to Miss Aubrey's trust funds while he publicly married you to protect your reputation. Under New York law, your marriage is legally void, and Mr. Stone faces up to 5 years in a state penitentiary for bigamy. And we have the forensic report from the hospital, the detective continued, looking at Chloe. The medical examiner has completed the investigation into the infertility case. We found that the medical records showing your infertility were forged by a doctor at the Stone Private Clinic under Mr. Stone Sr.'s orders, using a payment of $300,000 drawn from the Sterling Trust. The room went completely silent. Ethan slowly turned his head to look at Chloe, his eyes wide with a sudden, paralyzing shock. A forgery, he whispered. You weren't infertile? You lied to me. I had to, Ethan. Chloe sobbed, her face twisting in a frantic feral terror. You were always looking at her. You were always talking about your future with her. I wanted you to marry me. I had to make her look like the bad guy. You bitch. Ethan roared, lunging over the table toward her, his hands clenching into fists before the 2 officers slammed him onto the mahogany table, his face pressed against the cold wood as the handcuffs clicked shut. The next morning, the rain did not stop. The stock price of the Stone Group collapsed by 60% within an hour of the market opening, wiping out $1.5 billion in market value. The banks, acting on the default notices filed by the Sterling Group's legal team, froze all corporate accounts, forcing the company into bankruptcy proceedings by noon. The prestigious medical college they had thought they would inherit was completely locked down by my family's private security, the entrance gates sealed with heavy iron chains. In his cell at the Manhattan Detention Center, Ethan sat on the concrete floor, his hands clutched between his knees, his eyes staring at the gray floorboards. He had lost everything, his name, his future, and his pride. Mr. Stone, the guard said, tapping his nightstick against the iron bars. Your lawyer is here. Ethan shot up, his eyes wild with a sudden desperate hope. Is it the bail? Did my father clear the bail? No, the lawyer said, stepping into the visitor's room. The bail was denied, due to the severity of the bigamy and fraud charges. And your family's mansion has been foreclosed by the bank. Your father, Mr. Stone Sr., had a heart attack this morning and is currently in a state hospital under police custody. Ethan fell back onto the cot, his face pressing into his hands as the reality of his prison sentence began to set in. He had wanted a genius career. He had wanted a woman who was fragile and looked like a white swan in his arms. And now he was sitting in a gray cell, while the unworthy ex-wife he had dismissed was looking down at him from the top of the Sterling Empire. The Sterling family mausoleum sat on a quiet, pine-lined hill near the outskirts of the city. The air was clean, smelling of fresh snow and winter pine, the gray stone of the tomb rising into the silent sky like a monument of honor. I stood by the small white marble base, carrying the exquisite velvet box containing the remains of my lost fifth child. My mother, Clara Sterling, stood beside me, her hand resting comfortably on my shoulder, her sharp, elegant face filled with a quiet, deep respect. She's at peace, Aubrey, my mother whispered, her hand wrapping tightly around mine. Your father has already established the Clara Sterling Memorial Children's Hospital in her name. The foundation will provide free medical care for 50,000 children next month. Thank you, Mom, I said, placing the velvet box into the small niche in the marble wall. Beside it, I placed 4 small silver lockets, each one containing a lock of my mother's hair and a single, hand-carved wooden daisy, representing the 4 children I had lost to Ethan's neglect and Chloe's malice. The winter wind had passed, leaving behind a clean, warm air that smelled of fresh grass and spring rain. Let's go, Aubrey, my mother said. The board is waiting. 2 years later, the New York International Medical Summit was the largest media event in the industry's history. The grand exhibition hall of the Jacob Javits Center was packed with thousands of scientists, investors, and medical representatives from around the world. The air was thick with the scent of fresh lilies and the soft clinking of champagne. Glasses filled the high-ceilinged room. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the head of the commission announced, his voice projecting clearly through the microphone. The Sterling medical dynasty is proud to announce our new S-tier robotic surgery framework, the Astrea Loop. The crowd erupted into a thunderous standing ovation as I walked onto the main stage, dressed in an elegant, custom-made navy silk pantsuit, my hair styled in a classic, professional low bun. She's the one, a prominent medical critic whispered, adjusting his spectacles as he looked at me. The young matriarch who turned the industry upside down last year. Incredible talent. Ethan Stone was an absolute fool to treat her like a shadow. I bowed politely to the crowd, my smile warm, confident, and completely free. Suddenly, a commotion broke out near the entrance of the VIP section. A disheveled-looking man in a worn-out gray suit was being stopped by the security guards. He had lost weight, his face sunken, his eyes bloodshot, his hands shaking as he clutched a small, dirty piece of paper. It was Ethan. He had been released from prison on parole last week, but his elegant, proud demeanor was completely gone. He looked like a ghost of his former self, his hands covered in the gray dust of the municipal clinic, where he was currently working as a low-level medical clerk. Aubrey, he whispered, his voice cracking, his hands reaching out to me through the guard's arms. Aubrey, please, just look at me. Just 1 second. The security guard shoved him back, their faces expressionless. Sir, please, step back. This is a private area. I stopped 10 feet away. I looked at him. I looked at his worn suit, his bloodshot eyes, and his pale, shaking hands. I felt no anger, no hatred, and no pain. He was just a minor glitch in a system I had already repaired. The designs I drew for you, Ethan, I said, my voice smooth and calm as glass, were drawn by a woman who believed her husband loved her. But the woman you wrote those messages to died the day she boarded that plane to Boston. I turned, placing my hand on Mr. Davies's arm. Let's go, Mr. Davies, I said. The presentation is about to begin. Of course, Miss Sterling, he smiled, guiding me toward the exit. As the grand glass doors opened for me, the winter wind of New York blew through. My hair, cold, fresh, and clean. I looked at the bright, open sky, my heart full of a quiet, unshakable joy. I was Aubrey Sterling. I was the writer of my own destiny. And my story was finally beautifully complete.